Hey, hold on. How you doing? Um, this is Nicholas Yesu, and I'm in CS 1302 for Dr. Yuan Long, and we're doing a project today that we were given to us as bonus homework. Um, we're in section 006, and yeah, go ahead.
Alright, so this is Sai. My full name is Venkata Satyasai Sri Krishna. You just call me Sai. I'm in the same class, CSC 1302, and
Let's go on. All right, so the topic that we have been chosen was the notepad topic, which the scenario went something like we are employees of Microsoft and we're just basically writing a very basic GUI program. So making use of all the GUI um, assets that we have. So the features that we wanted to include or we had to include for the project was something that like a type area frame that we could type text in, and in it you were supposed to let it save, like you could save the text, create a new document, um, and that you could load it up. If you were decided to delete everything, you can save what you just previously typed. I mean, you can load what you just previously typed. So those were the features we had to include in our in our project. The task, the task that we split up, I wrote the main method and everything from the buttons to bringing in the GUI to the main method and to the client program. And you say what you wrote.
okay, so I wrote four methods in the code. So I pretty much wrote the action perform method, the save method, the quit method, and the load method. So it's pretty much the last four sections of our code.
Yeah, which you can see everything here. Just everything side row, very long. So the most difficult thing that I experienced while writing this code was actually something I didn't previously think was going to be hard, and it was the border layout. The border layout was just giving me some issues, and with the border layout, what I was trying to do is make sure that I was assigning the title to the North region, the slogan to the South region, and then we had to have a scroll bar so any text that went outside of the text area could still be seen with the scroll bar. So we had to assign that, which I tried to assign it to the east, but I assigned it to the center because that's the only way that it worked. So that gave me an issue.
So the most difficult thing I had in the code was pretty much the action performed. So that part right there, which is pretty much basically summing up the other three methods of the code to load, save, and quit. I actually had a lot of issue coming up with this code, so I actually got a little help from Nick here, and he helped me through the action perform code. So
okay, so now that we've kind of said why any issues that we've had and we've described the tasks that we need to do, let's just show you real quick the finished product of what's going on here. We're running program. Here we go. So it's resizable, so everything is able to be expanded to whatever size it's supposed to, as said in our project sheet. Let's say, so let's say you type this out and you say you want to save it. The action button has worked at this point, so now if I want to say new, I don't want that anymore, you can load it right back up and it'll bring it back. The only thing that was not outlined in the project sheet that we think could have been improved is actually calling, no matter how many times you make a new text area and delete all this content. Like say if I do something here and say save this, and I want to do new and then load
again?
Yeah, it won't load the hello world.
Yeah, so it's pretty much only loading the most recent text that we typed instead of everything else that we typed before that.
Exactly. So now you're gonna quit. You don't need to save anything. Yes. So let's jump right in. So let's start with my part. Since I started with the J-frame implementing the action listener, because we always need a listener when we're working with GUIs. The first thing that I wanted to do was make the title of the frame and assign it like a string. So we have that done here. Okay, and I did the exact same thing for our slogan. And we'll be making more use of that later once we're assigning it, like I was mentioning earlier, with the border layout. So here we have all of our buttons. This portion of the code is what labels the buttons actually. So we have new, for example, we have new going to new. Like all we're doing is assigning these so we can use them later. Same thing with the file name. This portion of the text is actually whenever you're entering something into that text area, right here. Whenever you're entering something into that text area, you say you're loading it, or say you're saving it. Once you delete it and you press new, you're going to essentially be saving it into this. So this is just giving it that file name, which is probably why every single time we try and reload the most previous file, it overwrites itself.
Exactly.
Right. So it's saving to this every single time. So once we hit load, it's only saving from whatever's in this location. String, quit message, and our load error message. This load error message is just in theory. We shouldn't be running into this unless it's a user error. So that just displays what should be shown on the quit message and what should be shown if there was a load error message. But as I said before, we shouldn't need that. That's kind of just there for props. So the next thing was actually just making the text area with the GUI. The text area, that's where we're putting all the content. That's where we're typing everything like that. And just initializing these buttons. So the button for new, the button for load, button for save, and quit. This is basically just the very basic like notepad method. So all we're doing here is we're just calling everything we're doing in the order of we're doing it. So first, the super title. So that goes all the way back up to what we already made our title, which is the Microsoft JavaPad XP. Then we're creating the user interface, which comes down here, and then we have to set the size, the size. So besides so we're setting the dimensions. User interface. This portion was actually also a little bit challenging to put together, but basically here, this is where we're laying out our components, and we're putting the components exactly where they need to be so that we can set the action commands to their respective places. So a lot of this is just calling and adding. Now that we've made those objects, we need to add them. Same thing, you can see that here. The slogan also, add the slogan. This is giving us the text area and the set line wrap, which are all built-in functions for GUI. Now, what we're doing here, we need a scroller, right? So that scroller is gonna be able to move us from point A to point B once we go off screen with so much text. We write a whole essay on it. Here, we're adding those components to the border layout, which I mentioned earlier, which gave me a little bit of an issue. In these the action listeners, like just go ahead and saying once we click this button, then this is what happens. And then the next part's yours.
And so pretty much from this section right here is my part, which was the code I did. So so pretty much the first method I did is action perform, which is pretty much basic layout to the rest of the codes, which is the new, load, save. And so pretty much what this does is this is the actions object, which will ultimately implement the action commands to start the actions when the user presses the button. So these are pretty much when we click the buttons, this is the code that pretty much implements what's going to run through for the output. So the new button is pretty much what so pretty much the next method is going to be save, which calls to the print writer that prints the objects that we created into an output text stream, and it creates the object, and then it just saves it. So it only pulls up what we save. It doesn't get deleted. So pretty much that. I don't know how to explain that any farther, but I hope you get the point.
I think we all know
you get the point.
I think we all know what save does in essence. So yeah, go ahead
So the next method is pretty much quit, which allows us to quit out of the little output box with the the panel. The panel.
Yeah, the frame.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
But the panel, but it pretty much quits out of the panel, and if we run the panel again, I'm pretty sure it won't save the code, right? If we pull up the panel again?
If we pull up the panel again, it allows us, like, say we save it and then we close out of it, whatever we typed in it, whatever we typed in that panel before we closed out of it, it'll still have saved it.
Okay, so
we'll
it does.
Yeah,
okay, so we're gonna show that in a bit, but so it does pull up the old text that we saved, even if we quit out of the panel. And pretty much the last method is the load method, which loads up whatever we typed in. So when we type in the text and we click save, right, which is one of the methods, right? So when we click save, it saves it, and then when you click new, it pulls up a whole new text. It doesn't pull up the text. It clears out the text, and then when you click the load, it loads up whatever is the most recent text that we typed in. So that's what the load method does. And that's pretty much it.
And just to show what we were just talking about.
And so this is the output.
Yeah, this is the output. Size it, save.
Pretty much saves it.
And this will always prompt you to save just in case. We'll just say save again. Let's say we want to run it again. As you notice, we didn't hit load or anything like that. We'll just say load, boom.
And it pulls up the most recent text, even if we close the panel.
Right.
So it is always, whatever is the most recent text that we typed in, it's always saved, no matter what.
Exactly. And that is our project for Notepad.
All right.
Thank you so much.